Hi, welcome to the August energy report. We're going to start off by reviewing the energy from July and what our card was and what our invitations were in July. And then we'll get into the major astrology for August, and then we'll wrap up with our card for August. So in July, we shifted from Cancer to Leo. We were really learning to step into the highest version of ourselves and to be more unapologetic about who we are. In Cancer, we got that security. We felt like the safety of ourselves. And then that gives us the courage and the strength to then step outside of ourselves in Leo and to really claim who we are. And our card for July was Jupiter, which I think fit really well with the energy of that month because Jupiter is all about growth and expansion and being larger than life. And when we've really created that solid foundation and are really aware of who we truly are, we can exponentially grow and kind of exude that essence of our authentic self out into the world. Jupiter is the largest planet. It's very effusive. I'm getting this image of incense or a candle or something that you can sense from really far away. If there's been incense lit in your house, even if it's in a different room, you're aware of it because it influences so much more space than what it actually physically occupies. And so as we enter August, we are still in Leo season, but the energy is shifting a little bit. We still are, being invited to really be boldly ourselves, but we are also about to enter a Mercury retrograde, and that's going to dominate the month of August. The Mercury retrograde is going to be in the signs of Virgo and Leo. So Mercury is at the beginning of the month, still moving forward through Virgo. And on the 4th, it's going to turn around and move backwards through Virgo. It's going to re-enter Leo. So we're going to have some retrograde through Virgo and through Leo. And then near the end of the month, it's going to move direct again and move back through that same area of Leo and then into Virgo. A Mercury retrograde is always a time to slow down. We are being invited to remodel or redo or review something in our lives. We might be invited to go back and fix a mistake, or it might not be that we've messed anything up or that anything was done wrong. It might just be that what is correct moving forward is different than what has been correct in the past. Virgo is a mutable sign, and so this is a sign that already is really seeking to change and specifically to improve. It's not a sign that really wants change just for the sake of boredom, but it's a very focused, improvement-oriented sign. One thing that I think might be a little tricky about Mercury retrograde through Virgo is this tendency to want to find a solution quickly. But we're going to be in this retrograde energy for the whole month. And what might seem like the solution at the beginning might not actually be what ends up sticking. So while we do want to be experimenting and trying out different solutions, we don't want to have this mindset that we need to figure it out and have a permanent solution. We need to kind of hold it loosely. And then as Mercury retrogrades through Leo, I think this is going to invite us to really be checking in with our heart-centered alignment and making sure that we are speaking from a heart-centered place and not from a place of seeking approval or what we think is expected of us, but really being true to ourselves. Leo is a sign that really thrives on approval and being seen, but the true nature of Leo is to be seen for who we really are, because being seen is not nearly as satisfying when the version of us that's being seen is not that close to who we really are, right? So it's that authenticity, like really checking in with our hearts. We can tell kind of the difference when we're speaking and using our voice because Mercury is about communication, right? So this is mainly going to be showing up in our communication and how we think about things. But when we're speaking, we can hear when our voice is a little bit deeper, it's coming from our heart. And when it's like coming from up here, it's coming from our brains. And it feels a little bit less secure. Can you kind of like feel the difference? We want to really be grounded and like sure that our messages are coming from our heart. But when you're not paying attention to the sound of your voice, you can bring attention and check in and see, is this something that it, like my mind and my ego think I should say, or is this coming from my truth? Yeah. And then throughout the month, we also have Venus in Virgo. So Venus in Virgo, similar to Mercury in Virgo, is really likes to improve and perfect. Virgo is associated with perfectionism, and Venus in Virgo really loves to create a perfect space or improve like health a lot of times because Virgo is an earth sign. So it often has to do with our bodies or our physical spaces. But Venus in Virgo can also try to fix others. So we really want to be aware of that because, as we all know, the experience of someone trying to fix us is not always enjoyable and not always good for a relationship. So we want to like only be helping people that have consented to being fixed or being helped. And we want to be really aware of how we're talking about it. And that might be how some of these retrograde invitations come up, where we are invited to talk about things in a different way. Maybe the way that we bring up the subject of improvement with a loved one, we need to approach it in a different way so that it can be received and they can actually accept our wisdom. We need to reconsider whether or not this is something we actually need to say to them, right? Just because something that we perceive could be better does not mean that it has to be better or that it's in the other person's best interest to change it. The last astrological note that I want to make is on the Gemini energy that we have going on. So throughout the month, we have both Mars and Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. Gemini is an air sign. It's the other sign naturally ruled by Mercury. So we have Virgo and Gemini are both Mercury's signs. But Gemini is an air sign. So this is more strictly the communication aspect of it, whereas Virgo is improving the way we physically do things and we move through the world physically. Gemini is the communication and the mental energy. It's a very curious sign. It's very flexible. It's another mutable sign. But how we talked about, Virgo is seeking to improve, and the changes that Virgo seeks are specifically for improvement and perfection. Gemini does not have such a narrow focus. Gemini seeks change simply to experience as much as possible. It's a very curious and exploratory sign, and it's a very non-judgmental sign. So that's how it's also very different from Virgo, because Virgo is making judgments on what is better and what needs to be let go of, whereas Gemini is open to anything and willing to try anything just to see how it feels and what ideas it brings up and what conversations can happen. What can I learn from this is the Gemini approach. So I think it'll be really helpful and supportive to have this non-judgmental influence during the retrograde, because that'll kind of give us access to trying things out and not needing to make something, not needing to force a solution to last. We can be more experimental and be more okay with something that we tried not working. And then, yeah, so we have Mars there, which is our planet of motivation and physical energy. But when Mars is in an air sign like Gemini, it becomes more mental. So this is going to be a really, like, we have a lot of brain power is kind of how I think of it. Like, Mars is like when we have big muscles. And then when Mars is in an air sign, like a large chunk of those muscles just go to our brains and we're able to get a lot done that requires thinking, like, especially in Gemini, like flexible thinking, creative solutions, and then exchanging ideas with others because Gemini loves to learn from other people. So it's a good social energy. It's a good time to be brainstorming with others. And then Jupiter is that expansive, bigger energy, that planet of growth and luck. And for several weeks, from August 7th to August 21st, Jupiter and Mars are going to be close enough to be influencing each other. So it's going to really amplify this mental energy, this creative, flexible problem solving. And I think that's really going to help us get through this retrograde with less resistance because Gemini, like I said, it's not judgmental. It's willing to try things out. It's not going to be too upset if something doesn't work out because it knows that there are so many other ways that things can go. So we can just kind of tap into that flexible mindset. And a way that we can do that is when something happens, we have a retrograde thing, like something goes wrong or there's a miscommunication. We can kind of activate our creativity by either free writing creatively, writing down ideas, or doing something completely unrelated to that task that like sparks creativity. So that could be like maybe you have a coloring book or a sketchbook on your desk while you're working so that when you're feeling that pressure to fix, you can kind of switch gears into the Gemini creative flexibility. And that can help you see things that you may not have been able to see when you were in the Virgo mindset. And I think that'll really it's nice that those are happening at the same time during this month. So our timing, we've got the retrograde starts on the 4th and ends on the 28th. So these first few days of August, we're in the pre-retrograde shadow phase, which basically is like a foreshadowing. We might start to notice things that we want to change, things that are asking us to be changed. We may start to see unexpected problems coming up. We might have like little clues about what our big retrograde experience is going to be like. And then we'll have the retrograde. And then after, so starting on the 28th and then into September, we'll have the post retrograde shadow phase, which is where we are integrating our lessons and what has changed. And that's really where we're going to be implementing our solutions. And that'll be when the sun has entered Virgo. So it'll be a really supportive time for actually making those solutions that Virgo loves to find. Oh, yeah. And then the timing of the Venus transits is just so on the nose. Like, so on the same day of the retrograde is the day that Venus enters Virgo, and finding solutions is going to feel really good. But it's going to be challenging to actually find those solutions. And we're going to be just seeing everything that's wrong and wanting to fix things, but it's going to be challenging to find solutions that stick. And then the day after the retrograde ends is the day that Venus leaves Virgo and enters Libra. Now, Venus in Libra is a much easier energy. That's one of Venus's homes. And in Libra, Venus is able to see things from two perspectives and to really weigh things out and find harmony once again. So it's another like supportive integration energy at the end of the month. So while this retrograde might feel a little sticky and a little frustrating at times, we have really, really beautiful support during and after it. And so we just want to be tapping into that flexibility and exercising patience around finding the solution. And that brings us to our card for the month, which is just really interesting. Our card for the month is air, which is, that communication energy, the mental energy, paying attention to our minds, to our conversations. And I think it's really interesting that we have it this month because we have that really powerful Gemini energy, which to me is, I mean, there are 3 air signs, but to me, Gemini just totally embodies the qualities of air because it is a mutable sign and changes so frequently. And to me, that ever-changing nature of air is a key part of it. We do have Libra and Aquarius are also air signs, but they are not mutable. They're not ever-changing signs in the way that Gemini is. Paying attention to what our minds are saying, the stories that are coming up around things that go wrong with the retrograde. It's also interesting that we have air the same month that we have a Mercury retrograde. It really is like pointing to pay attention to what's on your mind, pay attention to the thought patterns that you go into when something goes wrong, and watch how we speak and watch our communication. Our words are so powerful. And that really feels like a big theme this year, even just with these monthly energy reports, has been paying attention to our communication and remaining silent when we need to, and choosing our words and choosing our topics, and just being more aware of the impacts that our words have on others and on ourselves, our internal words. So that's what I've got for our August energy report. I hope that this was supportive and that August goes smoothly. I hope we are all able to stay in touch with that Gemini flexibility throughout the month. I think we have a lot of support for it. And I hope that the retrograde brings shifts that feel really positive once we've, moved through it and found our solutions. Change can always be a little disorienting. Practice trusting that the changes are bringing us closer to what we want and what we need. So I hope you have a beautiful day.